aegis of Banking, Financial Services and Fintech Expert Committee of BCIC. This committee is currently headed by CAK Viswanath, Managing Partner, KP Rao and Company Chartered Accountants, and Co-Chairman Mr. Sudeep Srikantaswamy, Director, Wealth Management and Family Offices, Bangalore, O3 Capital, Co-Chairman Mr. P. Manoharan, Director, IT, Money Process Technologies, and Mentor Mr. S. Sethuraman, Director, Finance Accounts and Sasmos HET Technologies. Today we have Mr. Nanjunda Palecanda, Founder and CEO, Nija Ventures Impacts. He's going to talk about tokenization, and this session will be moderated by Mr. Sudeep Srikantaswamy. Now, we wish to acknowledge and thank our annual sponsors, Bueller, Fundamax, MTR, IAMPL, STM, IMD, Sona Group of companies, TVS, Vishwas Group, and Wipro for sponsoring BCIC events throughout the year. So it gives me great pleasure in welcoming you all to this session. I now hand over to CA Mr. Viswanath to just give a brief introduction about Mr. Nanjunda Palecanda, and then hand over the session to Mr. Sudeep Srikantaswamy.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and I have great pleasure in introducing to you Mr. Nanjunda Pratap Palecanda. Nanju, as he is known, is an entrepreneur, a distributed economy coach, and a startup ecosystem influencer. He is an alumnus of the Bangalore University and the IIM, Bangalore. He has been an entrepreneur across the internet media, e-com, retail, tech, analytics, HR, and health tech. He has had an early success of positive exits and a few big falls. He has a decent experience in raising funding for ventures, where he has collaborated and has been instrumental in getting funding for ventures, having collaborated with. He believes Web 3.0 is a great tool for adoption of distributed economy across every sector and industry. Towards that, he's been driving tokenization of businesses and primarily building securitization of instruments to ensure dependable adoption of cryptocurrency. He's invested in media and entertainment startup, blockchain technologies ventures, F&B in social impact, vernacular media, and a fashion venture with social impact. He continues to engage with entrepreneurs across various products and service spaces in multiple capacities as a mentor, collaborator, coach, advisor, and consultant. He's been very actively involved in organizing hackathons with IISc to develop new technology solutions in the medical device space, which are further lead towards becoming sustainable ventures. So you have a very, very erudite speaker here, a very knowledgeable speaker. So let's listen to him as to what he has to tell us all about tokenization. And now I will hand you over to the moderator, my co-chair, right here.
Thank you, Chairman, sir. Thank you, Niranjan, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be amidst all of you. I think everyone here who was logged in is been watching the news over the last few days, weeks. So, it has been action-filled, especially if you're in the crypto world. I mean, so much action has happened. We would have not seen in over a year. It's got filled in a week, as they say. Years happen during or decades happen during 1 week. I think that's what perhaps we saw, if I'm not exaggerating, right? These kind of things happen once in a while. So welcome, Nanjun. Thanks.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here, and let's start with you.
Yeah. So it's a wonderful pleasure. On a personal note, I had the pleasure of knowing Nanjun right from college days. So I would know a couple of anecdotes which I would have I can pull out, with your permission or without your permission. I think when he was introducing, he was mentioning about the ups and downs.
Yeah.
I know about we are hardly 22, 23, and he had a venture. Probably a lot of money would have come his way, but he chose to pass it. We were like, what? Why is he doing this? Then when it just went away, that was one of the first falls, 2000, whatever, before 2000, 95, 98, right? 98. So, it didn't matter to him because he was just focused on building companies. That's the Nanjun that I have known, and he still continues that way. So thanks for being here. So we have been knowing each other from Web 1.0, if I'm correct.
Correct.
Okay. Now, for most of us, these are all theoretical names. So can you just tell us 1.0 to 3.0, where we have come, what this is like, perhaps in a minute or two, like,
Okay.
1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and as we move towards our topic today, tokenization. Nanjun, to you.
All right. Thank you, Sudeep, and thanks for not embarrassing me.
I'll just stop there. I won't go.
Right. Well, to start with Web 1.2, I think at least all the people on the table will recognize that we used to be on the web, what we used to refer to those days as portals, if you remember.
Yeah.
It was mostly static, and it was just about, you could probably relate to a digital brochure, if you will. It's online, and it was mostly that. And is where we brought into transactions, right? The whole world of e-commerce. In fact, majority of India today, the internet business lives on Web 2.2 yet. And majority of the world also, you can say that. Though transition has started happening, but it is, I think we are in the cusp of the transition. So now I'm left with what, 25 seconds on Web 3.2?
No, you take your time. We have a good amount of time. So
okay, no, I thought you said 1 minute cover.
No.
Web 1.2. I'm making an effort to do that.
No. Please take your time, because I'm sure the audience would like to know a little bit. So.
And anyway, you're setting the tone for the whole subject. So
Right.
go ahead.
So, no, I was also wondering whether you want to talk about the initial opening statement you made, right? So I have a conspiracy theory to give for that, but
Okay,
you can keep it offline if you want. So the Web 3.0 is where the net, see, if you look at it, internet, originally the core essence of internet was distributed. And with the evolution of Web 2.0, primarily getting down to transactions happening there, the governance demanded it to become more centralized.
Yep.
So the Web 3.0 is an effort to take it back to its core of decentralized world. So Web 3.0 is essentially about regain control of internet from a decentralized point of view.
Okay. So just for the general interest of the audience, I mean, even I am one, like, it's not that I know much about this. I'm learning as I'm talking to you. Can you take a step back and give a little more on the decentralization and the centralization bit, because that is the topic, like, everybody talks about, like, somebody would help if you can just perhaps articulate with an illustration or example.
Okay. See, I don't know whether computer classes today refer to the history, right? Most times we tend to leave out history and start with the current. But if you look at the evolution of internet starting from 1960s, it started with different networks creating their own communication routes, right? It started obviously from the research institutions and army, and then eventually they started talking to each other, and they became a distributed network, and which allowed public to come onto it and start using it from a point of exchanging mails or exchanging messages or even exchanging notes and things like that. So that was the distributed world where you connect to a network through cable. Usually those days, we started out with our dial-up connections, and
We all remember those wonderful modems.
yeah, we had patience to wait for it to connect.
Yes.
Today, we don't have any patience. The moment we switch on, we want things to roll out.
Yes.
So from a point of distributed networks connected to each other and facilitating individuals to connect onto it, that was the distributed world. And with the evolution of technology and also trying to bring in more transactions and money transactions facilitated through internet, it became necessary to create centralized control systems to ensure that how the government or the administration or the compliance system track the movement and all that. So the whole thing started converging, they started becoming more and more centralized. So that is where we started having all ISPs to be registered. See, today, though our infrastructure is still the same, right? They give you bandwidth, you provide service within that bandwidth, and you are required to provide all the usage data, who accesses, logs in, and what kind of transaction and all that. So things started becoming a little more centralized from a point of controlling the flow of information, a flow of transaction, right? Government is not interested in what is happening, but they want to know who's saying what to whom, and if there is any potential threat. Maybe it is justifiable in a sense, but it takes away the element of privacy, it takes away the element of freedom, because see, if you look at it, the more educated, informed, and wealthy you are, those are the countries which have democracies, right? So, it all comes down to the use of information and more effectively and more democratically. So I don't have to be told, or I don't have to think twice, is it politically correct for me to be saying something? These are the same things. So that is what Internet 2.0 started trying to converge, and it became a little more centralized. And most importantly, what happened is that it again started becoming a domain for wealthy to become more wealthy, right? So infrastructures are centralized. So that is where, a lot of these movements started happening, right? About Facebook controlling the internet, or Google controlling the internet, or Amazon controlling. So this is where it became necessary to rethink how do we gain control of our expression on internet, and which should allow me to reach out to anybody anywhere in the world, irrespective of being confined to or restrained or limited by few agencies or few corporates. So that is what made necessary for Web 3.0 as a concept to evolve. And as a concept, I'm forgetting that guy, that author, the fiction writer who wrote that book. Snowden? No, not Snowden. I'll tell you maybe.
Yeah, okay.
So he originally wrote these books sometime in the late 80s. It became quite a futuristic thing. So that is where he first referred. In fact, what we are today, metaverse is becoming as common a term.
Mm-hmm.
It was first written and published in then. So there were a lot of things he talks about it. And so it kind of became some basis for a lot of people to start thinking about Web 3.0. And Web 3.0, again, I think the coinage, the usage started sometime around 2014, 12 to 14, somewhere around that. I think it came from, incidentally, the Ethereum co-founder. So one of those guys started talking about it, that we have to start regaining and start building a world of Web 3.0. And the correlation of it is that, see, the evolution of blockchain technology has made it possible for the world to start thinking about regaining or taking back the control, or to make it a little more decentralized. And why now is that? Because, blockchain as a technology evolved only in the last 10, 11 years.
Right.
So that is where it is, from that point to this, it has started evolving, and it is actually, it's still in the process of evolution, but it has gone to a stage where things have started maturing sufficiently to at least move towards taking charge of, if I will, since we started in that context. So that's the journey, and that's where.
Okay, wonderful, thanks. So moving to the core question, so the topic of our discussion, tokenization. So tokenization is a derivative, or it's coming out of the Web 3.0, right? If you can just throw more light on tokenization itself. So probably we'll journey through the next few minutes on a little more detailing on that.
Right. It's Snow Crash.
Okay.
I just wanted to tell you that. And if somebody has not read the book, it's really worthwhile going, though it's a 30.
Yeah, you can probably review.
It's authored by Neil Stephenson. Neil Stephenson is now an advisor to founder of Amazon. He works with him, so I think he's part of Amazon. I don't know if he's on the board or something, but he's involved with Amazon. Amazon founder engaged him, I think.
So just for the reference of the audience, Neil Stephenson is the author. The book's name is Snow Crash. He's authored
quite a few other books, but this is
the seminal book, where this all.
Yeah, correct. A lot of these things have captured, and incidentally, it's a fiction. So it's anything we talk about future is fiction, right?
Right. So that's true.
Sorry, coming back to your question on tokenization. So I would like to take one step back as why I came into tokenization.
Yeah.
So or maybe I'll just give one statement. This is not verbatim. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it kind of puts the whole thing into a context very well. This is Peter Thiel made a statement where he says.
Peter Thiel as the founder of PayPal.
PayPal and investor.
The PayPal mafia. So
Yeah.
across, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he's an investor of everything big.
Yes.
So Peter Thiel made a statement that investment is not just about. I'm not quoting verbatim, so forgive me with that, but just with the context of it, which
Absolutely.
I connect with very well, and that is where I just wanted to bring this thing into. I should have made a note and come ideally. Sorry.
No, the interpretation is equally good. So,
So he says investment is not only about creating value, but about realizing value or value realization. So, in fact, there was a investor meet or a small fund I was talking about. So that's where I also used the same thing, which actually makes so much sense. So talking about, value creation versus value realization. So this is where tokenization makes a significant impact. We have so many instruments to create value, but there are so little instruments to realize value. So that is a context of, that's how I see tokenization playing a role. And again, like I said, step back, why I got into tokenization is that Sir was introducing, I think there's a mention of distributed economy.
Yes.
See, I started, there's different things I've done in life, right? So one of the things I did was to start coaching early stage entrepreneurs and also started working with some investors and working with their invested portfolio companies. So that was the time I started seeing that, we really need to create a larger distributed value, right? I mean, create as in the value is already created, but there is no shared value system in play. So that is where I started looking at distributed economy and started encouraging business model to adopt distributed economy. So I'll just take 2 moments.
Yeah, please.
So distributed economy is essentially any business has multiple stakeholders, right? Founder or promoters, correct. Then you have employees, then you have suppliers, then whatever supply chain players, and then investors, and then lastly the customers. So if you look at it, you also are engaged with business schools, right? When we talk about a stakeholder, we refer to all these players, correct. But when we talk about shared value ecosystem, we cut out everybody. We only talk about founder, promoter, and the investor. Right? Some organizations also refer to employees.
Right.
ESOPs. But if you look at it historically, ESOPs are given out traditionally at the early stage because the reference is that they are participating at an early stage. There is an element of risk involved, so it justifies the risk. So ESOPs, and thereafter, once the organization grows to a certain stage, the ESOPs are stopped. Correct. Right. And ESOPs are again used or utilized only to the top leadership. Right. I mean, it's no longer to the rest of the employees. We have organizations in Bangalore who actually made ESOP popular. Infosys actually made ESOPs popular, and we know of stories of an office boy or a driver.
Yes.
Crores.
Plenty.
Right. So that was a success story, or the great story of shared value. Right. And if we remember that all these things happened when Infosys was not valued at $1 billion. Okay. Today they're 100+ billion. Correct. And I think last I Googled, they're less than 8 are getting ESOPs. Which is not bad, but compared to more than 1 lakh of employees, less than 8,000 people.
I'll go through that. Yeah, sure.
Correct.
Tomorrow I'll call you. I'll understand fully and then.
Okay. So that is where there is some limitation of ESOP. So that's where so if you look at ESOP, it's only touching one other component of it. So that is where many other stakeholders are not really getting a shared value. So this is what I was recommending, but there was also limitations in the way businesses look at it. Yeah. Saying, and also another thing is that if you look at it, even ESOPs goes out of the same share pool, right? Correct. Yeah. So it is like the promoter has set it aside to give it. So it is like it has to go out of somebody's kitty. There's nothing that goes independent of it. So this is where when the blockchain technology was evolving and the whole thing started going in this direction, I could say that you can actually start looking at tokenization, which can actually be played out as a overlay on this. So without taking out the value out of the promoter or the investor kitty, you actually can create an overlay and share it with each of the stakeholders, and not charity, right? Corresponding to the value they are contributing to, they can be shared with. So that is why we came to. So that is why I looked at.
Sorry, I'm a bit unclear here, and maybe a few people perhaps in the audience also. When you say like, you're giving the tokenization in lieu of, am I right? Is that what I should read? In lieu of a ESOP. So are you suggesting like, this tokens or some form of a currency? Is that how is it going? I'm sorry if I got it wrong.
See, number one, it's not necessarily in lieu of ESOPs. See, ESOPs are entirely different instruments, right? I mean, I think, see now, let's look at it. What is an ESOP, right? ESOP is a shadow of a stock.
Yeah. It's giving ownership in a company, right of ownership.
Right of ownership.
To participate in the future growth, yes.
No, it's more of right of value of ownership, not even ownership. The ESOP doesn't give you ownership.
Yes.
Stocks, perhaps.
Stocks, perhaps, yes.
So that's why I was saying it was more of a shadow of the stock, right? So here ESOPs gives you that. And what is a way of cashing out for an employee? Employee is the only stakeholder who is capable of getting, qualifies to get ESOPs, right?
Correct.
So only way forward is that from a point of cashing, company buys it.
Correct.
Or if it is listed, then
Correct.
when they are good to vest it, they can actually go to the market.
Correct.
So these are the only two routes.
That's correct.
So so it is, whereas we talk about tokens as an overlay is not necessarily dependent on anything to do with stocks.
Correct.
Right? And tokens can reflect the value of the organization or the business or the process or the product or the asset, if you will, right? And it reflects the value of it and it is made available. And of course, we need to define the whole value process. There's an exercise called tokenomics. So tokenomics is something in the lines of like red herring, right? When you go for a IPO. So you basically draw out what is the revenue model, what's the business model, what are the complexities, threats, opportunity, everything you map it out, and also map out what are the possible scenarios that could impact positively or negatively. So tokenomics effectively reflects all those.
So there is something like tokenomics, that's a subject.
Yes.
So Chairman, we should, looks like we have another topic.
Yeah, we must take those little cues as we go along.
Oh, right. Actually, I think our conversation other day also, I think if people who are running business schools can create a course on it, it really makes sense.
Yeah.
Because we're going to have more of the people using it. Today, unfortunately, some of the people who are using tokenomics, they are using it only generated out of equations out of Excel. Right. So it is not reflecting, like, you all come from finance background, so you understand the red herring context, right? Yeah. So that is what a tokenomics have to reflect. So it has to go far more detailed. So if we can actually create a program, I think it will be of great value. So
we take that cue.
So I can make out you're an evangelist of tokenization. So how closely is this? Again, straight up simpleton kind of a question, like, cryptocurrency and tokenization, are they the same, or how different in case they are different, or where are they connected?
Okay. See, okay, let me just take one step back.
Yes.
Like we talked about Web 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0, there is something called blockchain 1.0, blockchain 2.0.
Oh, yes.
I mean, see, technology is all about jargon.
And I suppose these are evolving. So you have version 1, version 2, version 3 kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a part of evolution. And, at least the Americans are good at putting a number, a name or finding it. So the first one, the blockchain 1.0 was the cryptocurrency. So that's what came first, right? Bitcoin.
Yeah, correct.
right? And blockchain 2.0 is the smart contracts. You familiar with Ethereum coming out and smart contracts. Blockchain 3.0 is what you perhaps have also heard of this dApps, distributed applications, dApps. So here you see a lot of play of, you may have heard of these Web 3.0 games.
Yes.
They are mostly coming in as dApps. So you know, there is a lot of economy is growing. In fact, India is actually strongly participating. It's almost under the radar. Right, there are so many, mostly kids. You know, there was one Web 3.0 event I went to, and a guy looks at me as I walk in to one counter. He looks at me and says, "Uncle, do you understand?"
You understand?
Are you sure you come to the right place?
Yeah. So, see, unfortunately, people don't associate gray hair with the gray material anymore, right? Right.
You said it. You said it.
So but there is so much of activity happening, and so dApps play is becoming big. So when we talk about tokenization, maybe that's where the gray matter helps, right? We are able to integrate the web blockchain 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0.
Okay.
And we are able to bring together tokenization. So tokens are different from tokenization. So to answer your question, a token same as cryptocurrency. Tokens represent cryptocurrency.
Okay.
But
Oh.
tokenization represents an integration of one cryptocurrency, smart contracts, and dApps.
So this is really not really talking about this tokenization that the Reserve Bank of India is talking about in respect of keeping credit card data confidential and private.
I think that's one part of the tokenization. I mean, I think one of my conversations was triggered because when American Express sent something to do with tokenization.
Right.
Yeah.
See, the banks going for tokenization was that, see, there are a lot of credit card frauds happening.
Yes,
So they are
yes.
trying to address it by simplifying the tokenizing the payables. So potential threat is minimized. So that's the fundamental reason for doing it. It's a smart thing to do. Unfortunately, when we talk about tokenization, the first thing, the mindshare is taken away by the tokenization of credit card payments. So that's the, so I keep thinking, should we come up with some other coinage now? Because of that confusion.
Yeah, because generally whatever we've been reading in the media in announcements from the RBI on these matters, it's
Correct.
typically tokenization of credit card information, safety, privacy,
In the same
confidentiality.
context, correct. In the same context, let me, I'll give you a historical event I sometimes use that to explain tokenization. See, tokenization conceptually is nothing new at a very high level from an English standpoint, right? It is, for a long time, it has been tokenized at various levels. Even the currency was tokenized, right? That's where they came up with the different degree of currencies, and they were, this multi-metals were used, right? Gold, silver, or in India, even copper and brass, everything. So that is an element of tokenization.
Okay.
You create different degree of value to it. But essentially, that was tokenization. So one way of tokenizing is associate different value, and the other way of tokenization is splitting in some form.
Okay.
Right? Or fractionalizing. In RBI's case, what they are doing is they're trying to fractionalize the payout so that so every time you need to approve it at a token level so that you minimize the risk of fraud. But another thing which is very interesting, I don't know. Okay, I'll try to make it in a minute.
No, you take your time.
See, there was, I think at least all of us in the table know Libya, right? Sometimes when I talk to
Libya, yeah.
I go and speak to college students. When I talk about Libya and Gaddafi, all are blank faces. Nobody knows Libya or Gaddafi. Right?
So, I mean, just in case anybody has a doubt, Libya is a country known for oil.
Right.
Has seen change of governments recently.
Right.
So, always been an unstable state. Yeah.
Not always.
Mostly. Mostly.
In the last 15 years.
Yes, yeah.
And prior to that 15 years, Libya was, if you Google it, was top 3 GDP in the world.
Oh, really?
Because of oil.
Per capita GDP. No, because of oil, of course, but per capita GDP.
Okay.
So how did that happen is that Gaddafi nationalized petroleum. Essentially, he took the control of petroleum things from British and US. And you know what led to
Correct.
What? So he took it over, nationalized it, and he distributed or tokenized the dollar earning of petroleum. I think it was called Libyan lira or something. So he tokenized it and distributed to every citizen of Libya. So Libya at that point of time was the most educated Islamic country in the world, 100% or so, and highest higher educated country, and almost 60 to 70% of the Libyan population internationally traveled. Because education was free. People could, if they get a secular seat in any university internationally, government pays.
Oh, really?
And they all had so much of money they could travel internationally. Right? And we know that less than 5% travels internationally in America. And Libya, you can't even compare. So tokenization has power. I mean, leave the politics aside. If you keep the politics aside,
to make the case of the token.
I'm just trying to, if you can just see the correlation of possibilities of what tokenization can achieve from a context of distributed economy, what he did was that.
Okay. I think that's a good example, yes.
Right? He distributed and oil or any natural resources are nation's resource. Nationalization essentially means nationalizing the assets and value. He actually did that, right? Like the Peter Thiel statement. One is creating value and another is realizing value. And this was the tokenization essentially helps you realize it. And he did that by distributing it. And that made Libya what it was. And rest of it is politics. So
no, that we can.
We can.
That's not the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So great. Like so you're telling crypto started like just like our coinage or like our own currency system, right?
Okay. Yeah. Crypto essentially started more from a point of taking control away from banks. Right. So it is. It's about. Crypto is more of a trust economy, right? So in a cryptocurrency world or in a blockchain world, what happens is that you borrow money from him. In a current ecosystem, you need to make a legal contract, correct? Right, and you need to have some witness who confirm it, and you register it, and then it is valid. So that is exactly what our current currency system is also. You use a validated currency, then it is of value. Right?
Okay.
So in a cryptocurrency, he gave you something in the blockchain. We are all a witness to it.
Correct.
So you can say, you bribe him and say that you would say that he didn't give or I didn't receive. But you cannot say it to everybody across the table. Correct. Right.
Okay.
So it becomes trust is distributed as well, and it is recorded so that you don't try to manipulate it.
Yeah.
So whatever the fraud that is happening or supposed fraud that is happening, it is nothing of this sort. It's essentially a theft that is happening. See, you have a pass key, you lose it, somebody found it, they logged in and they could take the money out. So it is not that a few people grouped up and then they defrauded somebody. So such a thing is not possible here.
So can we move to some user cases, and maybe we can illustrate it with some real examples if it is happening. So I think you can take your time with examples and illustrations.
Okay, so we'll talk about currently, like I mentioned, let me talk about one I already mentioned, which is the gaming.
Yeah.
See, gaming is one of the things which is already adopted.
Can I interrupt you? Sure. When you're talking about gaming, I think it would help the audience if you have numbers to give the size of the gaming world, because it is insanely big. Like most of us would not know this. It's okay. But it's insanely big.
One thing is that the gaming as such is insanely big. The Web 3.0 gaming is still small, but it's one of the fastest growing segment. If you so this is still catching up. See, gaming is a bigger universe, right? You have the PS2 to Microsoft to all the biggest of the guys are already
right
in the gaming, and also the amount of money that Apple gives out for game developers is is like, I think, I don't know, last, whatever the share of developers was about 45 billion or so.
45 billion.
Yeah. So it is very big. But Web 3.0 is not that big yet, and it is growing. And why is Web 3.0 growing? Because of tokenization. There is a scope to monetize as you play. In fact, there are companies in Web 3.0, they pay players to play. So, and see, I don't think it's as strange for us, right? IPL is all about that.
Yeah, we have that fantasy league.
Not fantasy, IPL, team owners pay the players to play.
Yeah.
Correct.
True. Yeah, true.
It's the
And
same thing.
they're auctioned and they
Yeah.
bid for.
Yeah, their fee is paid.
That's a very good analogy. Like, that,
Yeah, it's understandable and
Yeah.
relatable too.
It's very,
yeah, I think IPL, we
Yeah.
all get it.
we all understand. So
Yes.
IPL is that team owners pay the players and they play. And these people make money by endorsements and
Right.
other things. The exact same thing is actually done in the Web 3.0 gaming.
Okay.
So there are companies, even in India, there are a few companies who actually pay the players, and players are who? Probably you won't know, your children at home. On the phone. they'll be-
Yeah, there's
Yes.
my grandchildren all the time on that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And we hate it, we shout at them, but they can make money out of it. But ironically,
I am sorry to interrupt. I just pulled out the
Numbers,
statistic. The gaming market was valued at USD $198 billion in 21 and is expected to reach 339 billion in 27. So, I mean, I keep hearing about gaming. I never bothered to look at it. Suddenly I popped it. Sorry, like,
it's
and
huge.
it is growing at 9% CAGR. That's the estimated growth.
No, but if you see the Web
I got
3.0 gaming, it's growing at a much faster pace.
Okay.
So, and also look at it, all the big gaming companies are also going towards
Yeah.
this. I mean, you can't avoid this space anymore. So, so I was just wanted to tell you that we talk about only the youngsters and kids playing the game, right? In COVID times, so there are two things to it. One other thing is there are few places in Africa, they don't have any economy. So the people there, young and old, only thing they do is play games on the phone. They live out of playing games.
Is it? They make that much money.
Yeah. There are articles in which is that they also rated India as a false economy. What is that? Economist.
Okay.
There are articles in Economist also about it. So you could.
I'm just doing that. Yeah.
So they actually make a living out of playing games, and they are not necessarily kids. They are also young adults, but they have no job. So phones, and they play, and some people, apparently, you remember we used to have this browsing center.
Yes, of
Correct.
course. Yes.
So there are some people who run a little more organized business where they get people, they can come and use those phones and play the games and share the revenue with the guy who owns the facility.
My God.
So I mean, it's innovation, right?
Yes, absolutely.
40% of South Africa is into gaming.
Oh,
In sub-Saharan Africa, 186 million are hardcore gamers.
No, many of them are.
this is interesting.
No, I'm just getting headlines, like, because this is interesting bit of data, like, so.
Yeah.
No, the reason I wanted to highlight is, like, because we keep talking about gaming and tokenization, like, just wanted to show the connectivity out there. So please go ahead. I think now just wanted to give that context.
No, thank you. That's in fact, if we were to make presentations, I would have probably come
I
to
know.
this time.
No, but the best thing about having a chat show is, like,
No,
you can
it's-
keep pulling out
I
numbers
think
like
this
this.
is excellent, actually.
Yeah.
This is better. And just
So
one
I'm
other
sure the
story.
audience is getting ready with questions also, like, so, but yeah, please go on.
So one other story, just to close that, is that recently, what was in the news recently, as in during the COVID times, around 2019, 2020, many people lost jobs globally, right? I mean, of course, even in India. So there was a story of a 40-something couple who lost job. They didn't have any other means to survive. They actually got down to playing games to make a living. So I mean, these things are like a smoke screen, but the reality is that there are people can, you can, and it's also a growing piece. So that is one, gaming, where the tokenization happens, where they play to earn, and that's a big component of a game model. And another thing is that they are paid to play because they also earn bigger money as well. So that is one which is actually currently prevalent, perhaps the biggest. And next thing is real estate. See, in India, it's not yet happening. In fact, I went and met some real estate folks to try to educate, and they were looking at me, asked me, I think it all came down to, I need to bribe somebody. Can I just pay them Bitcoin instead?
Oh,
So our people look at it from a very different perspective. But what's happening in the West, what is evolving is phenomenal. In fact, fractional ownership is coming into it, and
Yes.
it's a fractional of real estate.
Real estate.
it's,
Okay.
it's here also.
It's here, but what they're doing is they're employing tokenization. So there's a multi-tiered value that can be created out of it.
Okay.
So here currently, I think there are a few companies in Bangalore who are doing it also.
Yeah, I mean,
But they are,
typically, if I understand it, I mean, I don't know if this is the right example, right? About 2 lakh square feet. So they sell it in bits of 5,000 square feet each.
Or even lesser,
Or
right?
even lesser, 2,500.
Yeah, you could pay only a part of it. So
Yes.
one 5,000 square foot could be owned by all five of us.
people.
And then whatever is the
That's right.
earning out of it, management
distributed.
keeps a part and distributes.
That's been around for a while.
Yeah.
That's a
It's been-
fractional ownership. But
Right.
when you employ tokenization on that, so the value multiplies. So this is what has started
But
happening.
how? But how?
Well, you can actually create, see, what happens here is that, okay, can you park that question?
Yeah,
Because I think we talk about, okay, it doesn't matter, let's talk about it. See, this is one of the biggest advantages of tokenization, right? See, one is why do tokenization here, right? That, see, it gives you liquidity. How does it give you liquidity? If we talked about this fractional ownership or something, right? See, we collectively own a property and it is giving us some return. And whatever the return is not equivalent to the investment we have made. It
Yeah.
takes a point of time to reach, right? And if one of us want an exit, one of us have to buy out. Like if I have to exit, you four have to buy me out.
True.
Or likewise for any of us. And if you don't have that amount of money, capital there, you will say, go fetch another guy to replace you.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
whoever wants to come, he will see my desperation and he will
Negotiate.
cut me out, right? He will
And-
take
and-
the big pound of flesh out of me to get the.
And values are based on that.
Right. And I stand to lose on that. In tokenized ecosystem, I can actually see my need may not be whole. Like let's say each of us have put a crore each, right? And I may desperately need 10 lakhs.
Yeah.
But in this case, I have to exit or nothing,
Correct.
right? All out.
Yes, yes.
So I may exit my 1 crore asset at 80 lakhs because I need 10 lakhs, which is silly, but it's okay. I needed it desperately. And that's what we do today. But in a tokenized economy, I could only exit that amount and which perhaps any of
Okay.
you would have been able to take it,
Okay. I
right?
understand. Yeah.
So today I'm not able to give you only a token of it in a fractional thing. So here you yourself could have taken, or even the 10 lakhs I want,
Would be
all four of you could have given me 2.5 lakhs and taken the proportional tokens out of me.
Hmm.
So it could have been managed within the same ecosystem.
Or it could be anybody without moving the needle.
Huh.
So
So
title is digitized, is it? Title itself.
correct. Correct. See, we do have some problems, right? In EU for one, smart contracts are a legal contract. In India, smart contract is not a legally bound contract. So what we generally recommend is when we do tokenization, I say that we do a smart contract and we do a legal contract to confirm the legality of the smart contract, which is, I think it's part of evolution, right? I think every compliance follows business.
Yes, of
We
course.
are in that.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes, very true.
Yeah. So
So
if you were to ask me, is it legal? Typical answer is it is not illegal.
that's a
That's a real one. That's a real answer. That it is not illegal is the real answer. But what is the legality? I think legality will have to come about as we move forward,
which
You
often
think
happens in
about-
these.
which is
situations.
how it happens, right? I mean, first time when the plane was flown, there was no aviation ministry or aviation rules. First time when a car was driven, there was no rules.
license.
There was no RTO, right?
Yeah.
So everything, right? Even for Uber, a taxi driver had to get a permit, a token number. It was called token number to drive a taxi, but Uber got started. And the rules on it changed later.
Correct.
E-commerce also, right? We all know that's a biggest scenario, at least in Bangalore, most of us know about what happened to Flipkart having to move
Yes, yeah.
back and forth, all those things.
Correct.
Rules follow the business. So it's a natural evolution, and here also it's the same thing. It's a point of time, but unfortunately, what's happening is that many of the game companies, they're raising money. That's an interesting thing. The funding is another scenario that's happening. That's another use case we'll talk about it. Just right. Funding is another use case I'll talk. So so many of the companies are getting pushed out of India. So the investors are very, I mean, they're unsure of what happens here. Right? A lot of rhetoric about RBI governor recommending banning of crypto, and the finance ministry making statements which are like, so it kind of scares a lot of these people. So they are pushing. So I think 3 months ago, I knew there were 7 companies who all raised money, and all of them were asked to set up a company in Dubai or Singapore. And out of frustration, I tweeted tagging PMO and finance ministry saying, congratulations, you're doing a great job of chasing away future unicorns. So anyway, that's
part of the learning, right?
That's
like, so you kind of evolve and.
we see, I for one say, I don't want to run away. I want to find a way, keep pushing and keep sharing and keep saying that, okay, see, there's always some percentage of people who want to play the system. No matter what, which area, which space, they always are there. But you cannot, brand everybody in the same.
Technology is revolutionary. Reality is evolution. So
yeah, brilliant. Brilliant. I think you should note that. You should tweet it.
So yeah, just yeah. So
we talked about real estate. Another thing which is in practice in US is in the film production. So what happens there is that independent filmmakers, you're typically used to do crowdfunding to raise money. I remember India also, it started 2002, 2003. I used to be in some place. I remember getting a mail from a friend who forwarded that Rajat Kapoor made, I think it was the first crowdfunded movie in India. There was a mail on Yahoo. I remember I got a mail and he was asking, can you give some money? And there's a brief on it. And a friend had forwarded, hey, you know what, I know this guy is a sincere guy and he will make a good movie, and see if you can contribute and also share it in your circle. So I'd given some 3,000 rupees. So, and I don't know, after 2 years or so, that movie came out. I didn't get the money.
Make anything out of it?
The movie was made. I also was just curious, and I liked the whole idea that somebody wrote to you. So, of course, in India, crowdfunding got banned, right? You can't raise that. But in US, it is legal and people do that. But there is a limitation to that. So in tokenization, they are able to see we can actually tokenize an IP value also, like how you tokenize an asset, a real estate, or maybe, I mean, if you have time, I'd like to talk about how gold can be a great case for gold loan. That
would be a good example, actually.
When it's not done, but I'll tell you how it could be very useful. So it can be fractional and tokenized. So that is where now the indie filmmakers have started tokenizing, and there are also a platform. In fact, there are 2 platforms who help independent filmmakers to raise money through tokenization.
Oh.
So that is one. So we covered gaming, real estate, film production funding, and finance, equity and funding. See, funnily, you are in the investment space, right? You fund. So traditionally, first is that lending is a way of.
Either you do equity or you do.
Yeah. No, first is you borrow money if you can, and if you, I mean, otherwise you offer your equity as a security, right? And or you sell the equity.
Right.
So in the process of what happens when we sell the equity is that you know what happens, right? I mean, today Infosys, all founders put together in single digit, right? And the Uber, right? Uber, I think 73% of Uber is held by financial institutions. So and they have a co-founder. I think that they are keeping him as a non-executive director, probably paying him. Just stay as a co-founder.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the state, right? I mean, most companies, that's what happens, because equity, when you give, what you are offering is essentially control. So when you offer tokens today, in the Web 3.2 investments, the investment is happening for tokens and not equity. So you as a promoter or a firm, you give me token. So token gives me the value and token is not giving me the control of your company. So I think this is going to change the way investment is done.
That sounds like a game changer, right?
It is totally a game changer, and that's why I'm so super excited about it. So
I'm sure all the guys out there love to get the capital without.
no, but funnily, I was with some group of investors and we made this, and after I was speaking, and after that we went for coffee, and they're like, "Are you really serious?" I mean, this is actually happening. So the opportunity is so huge, and think of it as an entrepreneur. I think it's such a super control, right? And another thing, what Web3 or tokenization offers you is that the ownership becomes irrelevant. It doesn't matter. You're getting the value. Essentially, you are able to realize the value. See, as an investor, right? It's such a fight, a challenge to exit a company, right? You end up holding equity for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. And you never see a day of light. You don't see a rupee coming back to you, right? Because the companies are not issuing dividends. There's no IPO, there's no exit.
Very true.
And for namesake, you're an investor, you're holding equity for what joy?
Correct.
Right? But imagine a tokenized world where I'm realizing or I'm able to realize a value. So it's great for investors and it's equally good for entrepreneurs also. So that is another huge case which is already in vogue.
Well, if I may ask you, wouldn't tokenization and realization of value that we're talking about,
Yeah.
is it not similar to, okay, you're sort of buying and selling on the stock exchange? You're encashing on the value of, let's say, shares that you own
Fantastic.
at certain points of time.
Absolutely. It is. Only difference being that at what point of time you get to a stock market, being a company, right? You have to be listed, right?
True.
See, now the case I was talking about is that whatever investments I made in the startup, none of them are listed. So you get stuck. I'm sure most of the angel investors can vouch for it, that how many of them have they got exit?
Correct.
Right? You're stuck with that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just a good feel, it's just ego pleasing and nothing else. See, I have many friends who stopped investing.
Okay.
Because where do you get an exit? See, you ask him, see, you are a growth funding, right? I mean, at least you're at a series C.
We come out much later.
Much later. See, most of the growth funding, see, that's where I'm associated with that IAF level 1 and all that, right? India has hundreds of level 1 funds. And, 90% of growth funds put a condition for funding that this is not to give an exit to the investor. So you're stuck. I mean, let's be realistic about it. That is the way it is. And you can't complain. So you have to be cognizant to it that it is a runway of 3, 5, 7.
But I suppose it's the same in the other parts of the world too. It's not just special to our.
It is. That's why tokenization is getting adopted in other part much faster. And we have to also get into it.
Okay.
So when you say level 1, you're talking about, just for the audience, you're talking about the early stage funding, angel investment. Those kind of things.
Level 1 is a SEBI approved. Angel fund, usually it's individual.
Yes. Now, just for the audience.
Right. That's a.
Yeah. Category 1 is the.
Category
one is the nomenclature.
Yeah, right.
Cat 1 angel and Cat 1 venture.
Correct.
Investing. Yes.
We were talking about gold.
Oh yeah. This is not done, but see, now if you look at gold loan as a segment, can you think of a single bank which is not into gold loan?
Almost.
Even the smallest of the bank has a gold loan as a product. The reason being that gold loan is the best product, right? There is zero NPA there. And you know how it works, right? You first of all, gold is value is estimated at whatever is at 100. Usually, it's always discounted at 95 to 90%, right? But they say this is the best value. So there is already a margin made of 5 to 10%.
Correct.
I mean, if any of your audience are into gold loan, nothing personal, but that's the way the business.
That's the way it is, yes.
And they offer up to 70% to 80% of the value of the gold is offered as a loan.
Yeah.
So again, you keep another 20%. So already as a lending in institution, I'm keeping 20 to 30% buffer on my side.
Correct.
And I'm giving only the 70% of the value or 75%, right? So that value, whom am I giving to? Who are the people who come? Majority of the people who come to gold loan, it's a last resort.
Yes. Yes.
It's the most unplanned borrowing.
Very true.
So when people are going for something unplanned, where is the planning of repayment of it? Right? And this is where 60 to 70% of gold loan is a write-off. They pay for a few months at best and it's gone.
And as far as the lender is concerned, is fully secured. He's got the
Completely secured.
He's got the best value.
See, you have a 6 months window or something after which all the lenders have a right of auctioning.
Yeah.
So even if you come back after 6 months, if your house you borrowed, you're not paid, you go to court, there's a way of securing it back.
Correct.
Your gold is gone. It's
Right.
already melted, shape is lost. See, here in India, gold is emotion,
Yeah.
but it's gone. So, and funnily, every public sector bank is into it. See, at least all the government institutions are traditionally in India, we talk about protecting the bottom of the pyramid, and here, bottom of the pyramid is robbed in the daylight. So tokenization can change it significantly.
Okay.
So tokenization can be an element of instrument to make up. It can't give them the gold back, but at least it can cover the losses to some extent for them. So that is where tokenization, at least in this case, there's a solid case for Government of India to think of allowing, if they have given everybody to permission to do gold loan, they should allow this to protect the thing. So this is a great case.
This is a user case. I'm sure some young startup guys thinking about it already.
There is one startup
doing it.
One startup was talking about it. In fact, they reached out to me also to help them build it. But the founders, I don't know, they were also trying to. It was not a traditional gold loan business. It was a startup. So it demands some decent backing to come in. And also, I think he was shopping around for some advice. So somebody was advising it's better you go to Dubai. See, my advice is that if you intend to do it genuinely, stay here and do it. I think we need to make it happen here and go and tell the government that, listen, this is what I'm doing and tell me if I'm wrong. So I think that's the only way we can bring in compliance. Otherwise, it's a lot easy just to go off and set up a company in, say, 2.5 lakhs, you can set up a register company in Dubai. So, or probably less. But thing is that it's so easy to go out. But it is necessary to stay in and do this.
So yeah, we have come to the 1 hour mark. So I thought it would be a right time to check if the audience had any question, so that.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a good thing to do.
Pushur, can you show some questions if it is in the. You can start posting the questions on the message box. I think it's coming in.
What you could do is we can continue, and in the meantime, if someone raises hands up, post it.
Questions are there?
Is a cryptocurrency legal or illegal?
Oh, well, see, as per Government of India, or in India, cryptocurrency is regarded as an instrument of investment. So you can invest in it. It is not, see, today you have a cryptocurrency, there is no, you can't buy or sell using cryptocurrency officially, legally. So, I mean, it is done, people do that. But legally, it is only an instrument of investment. So is that legal or illegal? It is legal.
Legal.
Any other question there?
No.
So yeah, audience, please go ahead and post the questions out there. So we'll keep picking up as something. I think something has come in. Can you?
Asset?
I mean,
I'm not able to see.
Aerospace project.
Okay. An
Aerospace.
aerospace project.
Yeah, go ahead.
An aerospace project needs 350 million investment. How to use tokenization to get this investment? Is it through Is it through that? That's it.
Is
Is
it-
it through?
Is it
Oh,
through crowdfunding?
Crowdfunding. Okay. Well,
This is not a comment on the
It's a-
aerospace's requirement, but more on the process, like, so is it possible?
well, so this is only looking at tokenization only from a point of raising funding. So, so it all comes down to again, what is the quantum of fund required, right? Because if you are looking at fundraising in the token space, you obviously the money, much of it comes in the crypto format. And right now, ideally, crypto funding is on a very slow mode thanks to what's happening, right? The Ukraine war, which is collapsed the crypto value.
Multiple things. I think there is a change in the interest rate regime itself, like, so the free money is gone. Suddenly the whole thing is, I mean, that's a whole, that's a topic for another discussion,
Correct.
but like, yeah.
So right now, any big value funding from crypto-based, token-based funding may be a little bit challenged right now, given
I don't think, first of all, I don't think it's happening in India, right? Like,
See, there are investors here, but they are, before they put in the money, they are actually asking you to set up a shop in Dubai, because in fact, what happens is that money comes in the crypto form. So that is where, there are a lot of limitations in how do you transfer and how do you use. So that is where the limitation is. So for aerospace project, so I assume because it's aerospace and 350 million, you said, right?
That's right, 350 million.
Wow, okay, that's should be possible. There are a lot of billionaires in crypto world, but you can't get the money to India right now. So that
this week is a bad week for this.
yeah, totally.
His question also is it through crowdfunding? Is the question there?
No, but 350 million, well, in a very loose sense, it's always
So
crowdfunding.
maybe, can we say in theory it is possible, but maybe not right now?
Correct.
Is that the answer?
Yeah,
How do you transfer the ownership of tokenization? I mean, what is a forum?
that's what we were talking about, right? The smart contract facilitates you for a transfer of ownership, but in India context, in smart contract is not a legal document. We need to back it up with a legal agreement, which suggests that the smart contract done between A and B is legally valid through this legal agreement. I mean, that's a
Roundabout.
or you operate in a geography where it is legal.
So this blockchain technology which is used, so that is related to tokenization.
Yeah, so essentially, there are multiple blockchain technologies, right? So you need one of the blockchain technologies to do it. And there are different reasons you pick why A and why not B, or why B, why not C. So you work on, there are some things which are very good for scale, but then there are something which are very high on cost. You probably even the transaction per second, you're probably familiar with those things, why there's a limitation of these things. So technology is still evolving, but since we are not getting into using it like a utility card or utility token, it is actually doable. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I say at least in US, they permit more utility tokens and not security tokens, which is, I think in the context of gold loan, I would rather, sorry, no, it's the same question, right?
Same question, yeah.
No, it's a different one. Can any
Yeah,
digital content be tokenized? Yes, to protect it.
Any loss?
Loss.
Well, that is already happening, right? In fact, NFT minting is essentially a digital content. I mean, if you take a digital art, it's a digital content, and it is already tokenized, and it is also monetized, and there is a way of protecting it also, and there is a way of monetizing it, auctioning. So that is already done. In fact, yes, that is another thing which is employed here. But unfortunately, NFT, in my opinion, there are some people have other opinions. NFT, in my opinion, did not take off to its true potential because they didn't employ tokenization in its holistic format. They've tried to independently go only with that. So that is why unfortunate limitation, except that few bursts, right? Like Amitabh Bachchan launched his tokens and it went for $1 million. Big splash, but after that you didn't see a lot of things.
Yes,
And then
yes.
Salman Khan, one other big splash, but again. So that is where I think tokenization will facilitate a lot more monetization through NFT. There are a lot of better, good use cases. So simple yes, no answer. Yes. Can any digital content be tokenized? It is already being done. And yes, that's.
Okay, thanks. Anything else we have missed?
Crowdfunding is question of crowdfunding.
No, that's.
No, that was a
second. And then
previous question.
yeah, continuation to that one. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, man.
No, it's a thanks.
Thanks. That's it.
I think we have more or less covered. Sir, any questions?
No, I mean, whatever little things that I had in my mind, I've already talked about it. But I think we've not fully talked about the gold bit yet.
So okay, I was just giving you why do it, right? And do you want to talk about how in the gold loan context, see, usually or traditionally what we talk about tokenizing is we talk about tokenizing an asset,
Yes.
which is real estate or even a digital asset. But in the gold loan context, I was not really talking about tokenizing gold as an asset. I was talking about gold loan process
Gold loan
Yes.
itself being tokenized. So that is a way. So that's a different option. I mean, possibility of tokenizing the asset to tokenizing the process. So which
Okay.
we can actually do that, and it is.
I think in Europe, like, there have been bond issuances which have come in this form using the blockchain technology. So
Correct. That is being done. In fact, that is
And
also
even
being
in India, like, some amount of lending which happens, like, retail lending, they're using blockchain technology. So
they're talking about it. I don't know if the applications happening. And also see in blockchain, there are two kinds, right? See now India is launching the digital currency. And most of the governments want to have a private blockchain. There are public blockchain and a private blockchain. And all the popular, I mean, any cryptocurrency you hear about, it's all in the public chain. And all the government agencies wants it in a private chain. So some of the blockchain technologies now are facilitating option to work, build both on the public chain and the private chain.
Wow.
So they are looking at it from a point of, see, the argument is security, but I think coming from a distributed economy side, I see a public is far more secure unless you are doing something untoward, right? If I want to hide something, then being public is not the space. So I see otherwise, but government looks at being private. They are able to better protect and more secure. But I think it's always a two school of thought. Right? So in that context, so governments are doing it. Government is primarily going on a private chain, and in that context, some are looking at it. So maybe some of the financial institutions may start off from a public chain point of view, because a private chain. So which also gives them a window to hold back all the transaction data and also perhaps feed into compliance agencies as an demand. But in such a scenario, I don't see why blockchain at all. Traditional computer applications are good enough for it. Right? So that would be only blockchain for the sake of blockchain, just to sound that I'm using blockchain.
There's no added value there.
Yeah, it won't be. If you are trying to play with a private chain, the arguments, I mean, unless you actually believe that you want to protect and how many people want to, it's better if you don't have something to hide, then private, public chain is a better proposition.
Private chain, I suppose, in a sense, defeats the distributed model.
Correct. So, but that's the debate. Right?
That's the dynamics in the environment, I suppose.
Correct.
They like it.
That's the thing, and also so far that if you look at it, see, we've been using open source technology since
long time.
Then, right? But how much of open source technology is built? Finally, even Red Hat got sold to Oracle. Correct. So, so we still have, but See, that is where I think tokenization can change is that, see, we didn't create billionaires out of open source. That is what didn't lead to. I think economics is a final decider, indicator, right? If you are a billionaire, that's a good way of doing things. So if you can create billionaires out of public chain-based tokenization, I mean, of course, there are people who are billionaires only out of crypto, but not really building a tokenized distributed economy model. Yeah. So if you can create billionaires out of open source technologies, if we can create billionaires out of distributed economy, then more people will start actively thinking. Otherwise, it'll always be about, I want to be a Microsoft, I want to be a Amazon.
Yeah. Good.
So I think if there are no questions, we can
Wind up
the session. So any more questions there?
Any more? No.
No. Okay. So thanks, Nanjunda. I think thanks for covering. I think what we have done today is just got the appetizer. There is a whole
tip of the iceberg.
So there is so many things to know. It is endless. One question leads to another. Sometimes it looked like were we straying, but they're all connected in some way. I think it is going to be like this for most of us. So who are picking up this thing, and I think there is going to be fast track learning, especially after what's happened in the last few days with the crypto exchanges and all. It's mainstream news. It's no more fringe tribes who are following.
Front page now.
Yeah, it's front page, and I think so there will be a lot to know, and probably we'll come back to you for more. So we learned tokenization 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. I mean, I didn't realize that even tokenization perhaps can be blockchain. So
and hopefully tokenization
also, that also will follow.
Will follow. Because when Apple can have Apple 14, these are all going to follow. So that's the trend. So and we did get some really good, interesting use cases and real world examples and some kind of visualizing in the gold context. I'm sure, as I told, some smart entrepreneur is already doing a back of the envelope plan, to do this, so we would love to hear from them soon. So thanks, Nanjunda, and perhaps look forward to getting you back here,
Yes,
for one more version.
That's important. Another version of this.
No, we thought of tokenomics, Sir pointed out, wrote down, that sounds like a pretty interesting topic to discuss for another day, another time.
Sure.
Or a few cups of coffee. So to the audience, thanks for taking time out. Logging down here, really appreciate your time, and I think we'll look for your feedback, and we'll plan more programs like this. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.